we're ready. Are we ready?
Call this meeting to order. Thank you very much for being here. Commissioner Lautner, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yeah, please rise. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have one more meeting before we get our new speakers and new microphones, so I've been asked to remind us all to speak into the microphone tonight. Would the clerk call the order, please?
Commissioner Kramer,
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Present.
Chairman Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Present.
Commissioner Alguier,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner,
Present.
all present.
We do have a proposed agenda before us. There are two late additions on there. Are there any additional additions or deletions?
None, do we want to approve the previous minutes on the? The board minutes?
We should do that because I skipped right over it. Thank you. We have several sets of minutes to approve tonight. Thanks to the clerk's office for all the work.
Yes. I would make a motion to approve the minutes ready for approval. Do I need to read this whole list or can it be entered into the record?
Yes, you do.
Okay, committee of the whole, Wednesday, January 24th. Special session, Wednesday, January 24th. Regular session, Tuesday, February 20th. Regular session, Tuesday, March 19th. Regular session, Tuesday, April 16th. Executive board meeting, Tuesday, May 14th. Special sessions, Tuesday, May 14th. Closed session, Tuesday, May 14th.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Now we have a proposed agenda with two late additions. Any other additions or deletions?
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda approved 7-0. Thank you. We didn't do this, but we did tell our first speaker, who's going to be here for a presentation on Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, that he could go before Richard Lewis because he's going to leave. And it's my pleasure.
Well, I'm not leaving. He's gonna leave. I gotta stay, so.
Yeah, please do.
And I was supposed to mention that when we approved the agenda. It's my pleasure to introduce Greg McMorrow. You all know Greg. He coordinated, chaired, and gave the leadership to our substance abuse coalition. He turned that over to the new program with the Advisory Center for Teens, LIFT Advisory Center for Teens. He was our representative on the Department of Health and Human Services Board, which place they elected him as president or chair. He had 10 years of working in community mental health, and he was just elected as the chair of the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board. And he was, I think it was unanimous. It was, lots of support, and staff are excited about it as well as board members. But Greg was, before that happened last week, Greg was to come here this week and give us just a short update on, you've all heard of some issues with the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health over the last year, and then enabling agreement, and the work with Grand Traverse County, and Greg's going to give us an update. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Wow. Two thank yous. I'll give you one, thanks for your time tonight. And secondly, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on the Northern Lakes Board. I'm an honored to be on the board. The board, it represents 6 counties, as you all know: Wexford, Crawford, Roscommon, Missaukee, Leelanau, and Grand Traverse. I'm not going to pummel you with a lot of statistics, but I'm going to paint a big picture to make a couple points, then I'll get out of here so you can get on to other things. Our catchment area is about 220,000 souls in those 6 counties. We have 361 employees. Currently, we have 15 openings in those positions. Much has been made about the shortcomings of Northern Lakes over the last few years. Much has been written about it in the media about those shortcomings, and quite frankly, they were well deserved. We earned some of those things that were criticized for. There was poor performance in areas. There were a lack of some business controls. I'm happy to say that I believe we're taking corrective action on many of those things, not all, but many. I would say we're in a transition period. My number one objective is to bring stability and enthusiasm and excitement to the staff. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health is the staff and the people they serve. Without them, there is no Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. You can't have one without a staff. You could have it without a board. And I want to make sure our board doesn't interfere with the services provided to our clients. Things generally, however, I think are improving. We've had a number of significant changes in leadership. You may be aware that we are operating under a new enabling agreement that you folks were part of confirming. That enabling agreement set about some new expectations and standards and required a new set of bylaws, which we just enacted. Those literally just enacted in the last board meeting. That will require some changes in governing policies. And it's my hope to bring a reasoned and measured set of expectations to our board members and get them engaged so that our staff doesn't view the board as a distant and difficult entity to have to work around. And perhaps some of you could relate to that concept. The citizenry should look at any board as being advocates, right? And I have that challenge with my colleagues on the board to bring that to our citizens, but most importantly to our clients. We're roughly a $95 million budget. We recognize as a governmental entity, as an authority, because it is actually funded by and covers multiple local jurisdictions, as you're well aware. The agency operates 4 locations, administrative locations, the primary one on Hall Street in Traverse City, one on Cobb Street in Cadillac, a satellite location in Prudenville on the shores of, near the shores of Houghton Lake, and one in Grayling. There's always a challenge in delivering mental health services, always. As I have referred to it on other boards I've been on, it's a tension-driven system. There's always more demand for services than there are resources to deliver. That's another concept I suspect this board can relate to. There's always going to be greater demand. But our job as board members is to try and narrow that gap as best we can. And it's my ambition to do exactly that by delivering messages of confident and determined approach and reasoned approaches to leadership to this county and to the other 5 counties that we represent. Can I take any questions at this point?
Commissioner Rocker and then Commissioner O'Gara.
Yeah, Greg, I know that you've gone over the list of services that are provided, et cetera, but do you have an idea, like any kind of an idea, pick a program, and what is the clientele ratio to the employee?
Okay, that's good. That's a very good question. Let's take what we use acronyms in this business a lot, the IDD, intellectually and developmentally disabled community, those who are generally born with organic deficiencies. For example, we have 2 case unit leaders who manage the IDD community for adults and one for children. The individual who's managing the adult IDD community has 20 case managers that report to her. That's way too many. Each case manager has about an average of 36 clients. So you take a look at that span of control, it's too much. Some of these numbers I just recently became aware of. It's not an easy fix, but that span of control is too much. There's too much demand. But the people that we have are terrific, just dedicated.
I have heard that.
Pardon me?
I have heard that.
They are. And if you think, for example, one population, take adults with, oh, sorry.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Actually here.
Sure. Take one segmented population, adults with Down syndrome, many of whom have no resources, have no network, don't have older parents that can take care of them. Many do. But what happens to those souls, right? As a society, we have an obligation. And I don't want to view it in a pejorative, in a negative way, that it's a negative obligation. That population, we maintain and manage 9 residences and an apartment complex building, and have a lot of residents who are managed and receive services as residential recipients. That's just one example of a segmented population of individuals. I'm sorry, you had a question?
I was just wondering how you deal with the challenge of such low pay from the insurance companies, especially for Medicaid.
Mhm.
It's a challenge to get therapists up here, especially with the decreasing pay.
It is. It is a challenge. What's even more problematic, irrespective of the rates that are set by Medicaid for specific interventions, there's a different rate for different services provided, a different rate for an individual receiving substance abuse intervention. There's a different rate for an individual in imminent crisis, for suicidal prevention, for the IDD community. It would be really great if we knew those rates and they were stable year in and year out, but they're not. Medicaid seems to constantly be adjusting rates, and those rates force agencies like our own to shift priorities, to try and fund that staff, that you're referring to. Much has happened in the last 3 years. There has been increases in wages and salaries, particularly for licensed or license eligible professionals, people who are licensed social workers, licensed psychologists, limited licensed psychologists, licensed professional counselors, or those who are licensure eligible. And that has helped. Our total headcount, our total available job postings went from 61 when I joined the board, and I had nothing to do with this. I'm just saying it's a coincidental event. When I joined the board, I think, which was 3 years ago, now we're at 15, which is a good thing. And of those 15, one is the CFO. We're operating with a contracted CFO right now for a variety of reasons, but progress is being made. But it's a challenge, and you always have to focus on staff retention constantly. And just as an aside, Northern Lakes is one of 5 CMHs that operate in the 21 counties of what's called the NMRE, the Northern Michigan Regional Entity, which is the prepaid inpatient health plan. These are too many acronyms, and I'm probably getting down a rabbit hole here. But it's very important to leave you with a message that Northern Lakes does not operate as a silo. We're part of a continuum of community mental health agencies. It just happens that Northern Lakes has by far the largest population to serve in our catchment area. These 6 counties happen to have about 220,000. The next largest one, I think Osable Valley or Northern Healthcare Management, probably have well less than half of that. So, but I view it as a continuum, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak to you at any time, and would welcome the opportunity to come back on a regular basis.
I wanted you to speak. I know you're limited what you can report, but we've all read and heard the news accounts of a finance audit and a HR audit. Could you just tell us an update on that?
Sure. The previously mentioned Northern Michigan Regional Entity, which is the Medicaid payer, they receive all Medicaid funds from the state, distributes those funds to all the 5 mental health agencies that I just spoke of. Several deficiencies have been identified in our operations at Northern Lakes over the last 2 years or so. One had to do with incomplete and unacceptable HR practices. One had to do with finance. The Northern Michigan Regional Entity, with the board's support, authorized an audit of Northern Lakes by a third party. The third party is the Raymond Consulting Group, long ago known as Raymond Robson, a audit firm. Raymond is finishing 2 reviews of Northern Lakes practices, one for human resources and one for finance. The human resources report was literally released yesterday. I happen to get it because I'm transitioning off the NMRA board. It won't be made public and released to the public till tomorrow at the NMRA monthly board meeting in Gaylord. The second one, the finance audit report, is forthcoming. It's my expectation, and although I was a psychologist for several years early in my career, I spent the last 35 in the corporate world and had the opportunity to consult with a number of major firms about business controls. As I look back at what needs to occur, I don't really believe there's any kind of malfeasance involved in the shortcomings of the management, but there are definitely deficiencies in controls and accounting, things that can be corrected but need to be addressed. And as Commissioner Wessel just mentioned, we are awaiting the final report from Raymond on the finance audit. Did that help?
Thank you. Any other questions for Greg? We are so fortunate that you're there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Richard.
Hey, that's my report. On the impulse grant, thank you for the heads up of an opinion that was given by our attorney last week. Gave me an idea, so I talked to them. He does support, or he does indicate that we do not have to enter into a letter of understanding as relates to bringing somebody on. There was nothing written, it was verbal, but that's fine. I've already shared that with the sheriff and the undersheriff, so we'll just leave it at that. So if they want to exercise that right, and that, they know we have the outline and the path that will be followed for the future. So let you know about that. Also, last week we had a concern that was raised to us as it relates to a computer item over at the down at the Register of Deeds office. I'm just going to read the memo that I provided you today. Public comment was given at last week's executive board meeting regarding a possible security breach at one of the above mentioned computers. These are the 2 public computers down at that office. First and foremost, there was no, nor has there been, a security breach of the Leelanau County computer network. The issue has been investigated by the county's IT department and its support service, and there's an attached email in the packet for you from them, which is more than I know. One of the publicly available computers, it appears that one of the publicly available computers in the Register of Deeds office was used by a member of the public on May 1st, 2024. During the use, it is suspected that a Microsoft notification popped up and was accidentally clicked. This resulted in an Edge browser window opening which displayed the Xbox.com website, which is a valid website. As noted in the report, as you'll read there, notifications and the news and interest icon have been disabled on both of your public computers, so that does not happen again. While we While we do appreciate it being made aware of the issue in the future, we hope for all public that and appreciate being notified promptly by any user of any public computer of the county if they feel anything needs attention. Waiting 2 weeks, because this happened on May 1st, could have had more serious repercussions. Fortunately, did not, but we do appreciate being made aware of it. But please do not hesitate to let staff know if you suspect something. Because we don't want it to go sideways. Just to give you a quick project update, the government.
Sorry, one more question. So there was really two-part. Why was our resident kicked off in the first place? Is IT looking into that?
I didn't pick up on that one, so
Okay.
I would have to follow up on that. too.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you.
did, I just picked up more on the security issues, so.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're
So that shouldn't
welcome.
be up there.
Well, thanks staff, I just turned it over and they did the work, so. But I just get stuff, so I bring it back to you. So, I just get to be the high price mouthpiece here, so that's the way it goes. Projects, the governmental center entrance RFP will be ready by mid-June to be issued out. The split rail fencing that's going to be installed at the Veronica Valley Park will be installed the first week of June. Chambers upgrade, as you mentioned, is scheduled for May the 29th and the 30th. We have put in a request to them to see if they can move up a day earlier to do it the 28th and the 29th. But we're not saying don't reschedule. We want you here to do it. If we have to go downstairs for our first round of interviews, that's what we will do. But we'd like to see if we can do that. For those of you in the audience that last week mentioned about it's hard to hear, you're right. Those speakers aren't working very well. I tried to play with them all last week and it just wouldn't work out. There's supposed to be 6 additional speakers that are going to be installed in this facility, in this room here. So hopefully by our meetings in June, we'll be able to hear a little better. So, and the mics should be a little bit better too. Of course, I don't think people have a problem hearing me. I'm used to yelling over 5 girls, so that's okay.
Careful there, careful.
Also, we did open the bids for the resurfacing of our parking lots. There were 2 that were received. You will see recommendations before you at your June meeting. So that's where we have some things, and I can give you reports on other things after we get through the consent calendar, and we'll take care of that. I do have one item on the consent calendar just to bring up to date. Under 7B, which is the Miles Kimberly wood chip labor install, we did confirm that when we started this, we were just thinking about a swing set. This covers all the playground equipment that's in that park. All the equipment, the merry-go-rounds, there's 2 swing sets, anything that should have wood chips around it is included in that price. So it's one thing about it, so that's good. That's just for you. Everything else I'll do when it gets down to it. Well, now you're wondering that after I get through here tonight, what am I going to do next month now that I've done all this? Well, next month, I'm going to start working on that damn walkway. I mean, the dam over here, not anymore. Yeah, the Leelanau Dam walkway. We're going to start working on that. I got to take a tour with Jerry last week and look at it. It needs some love, but I don't think it's better to replace it because there's some other wood underneath. But we will bring that back to you next week or next month with what we want to do. I'm thinking that I would like to stick with our engineer that's working on the dam so that one body has all the knowledge about that dam that everybody else has. But I'll try to get a quote from him before I sign anything. We'll take work on it. The lease agreement that I'm supposed to be reviewing, I will get that completed and that we'll have a discussion about that and the cleaning downstairs at your June meeting. And I've had some enjoyable conversations. I do mean enjoyable conversations with the chair and of the Parks and Recs Commission. We're going to meet later on to go through some conversations to help get everybody on the same page. So there's not this feeling that one's against the other, because that's not quite correct, but it's more of an understanding. And then what can we do to help that make that those items move a little smoother than what they appear to have been. They might have been fine, but that's what we're working. So that's what I get to do next, and everything else is what I get told to do by staff. So that's what happens.
Any questions for our administrator?
I'm rolling right along here.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. Well, at this time in our agenda, we have time for our first public comment. 3 minutes or less, please. You're all welcome to speak. For the first public comment, we'd ask that you speak to anything on the agenda. If it's not agenda specific, we'd ask you to make that comment at the public comment at the end of the meeting. But is there anybody that would like to make a public comment?
And those that are coming up, we ask you to speak up a little louder if you don't mind, so it gets into the mics, or you may want to pull that center mic a little closer to you. That may help too. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Lesh from Northport, and this is in regards to action item 1B. The Leelanau County Conflict of Interest Policy states a clear example of a conflict of interest occurs when a public servant openly advocates the approval and funding of a program which would result in a benefit to the public servant. Joe DeForest is chair of the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force. In that capacity, he helped write and openly lobbied for passage of a state grant that will pay him $45 an hour. His name and salary are specifically stated in the grant. The conflict of interest policy further states that persons may report conflicts in writing to the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners for investigation. As County Commissioners Cameron Ross and Gwen Allgaier had knowledge of and were complicit in the ethical violation, they should be recused from the ethical violation investigation. Please consider this written document as notice of a violation of the county conflict of interest policy. Should an investigation verify the facts previously presented, Mr. DeForest should be removed from the task force for seeking personal gain in his position. And may I approach the,
This is not,
okay. This is,
You just hand them out and we'll pass them down if you'd like.
that's fine.
it's a different thing. So I would like to state that she's commenting on something that's not on the agenda, just because the word Energy Futures Task Force is on here.
Right, and I would hope
This
that
is-
during commissioner comment, you'll make that,
Well, and we have to be more careful.
if you saw the puzzle look, I was trying to find out where but I understand. Doesn't help if you call for a point of order after the order's been violated.
I do think it's important to note that, though, that just because the words match doesn't mean.
Anybody else for public comment? Well, yes, sir. Well, you too, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought,
No, you're up first.
okay, I won't blab too long on this. I'm kind of following up. I was asked to, we couldn't make it tonight, so I was asked to drop that off. Same thing, I guess you pass it around. And I'm just including my own with that also.
Well, this now I'm going to ask you to wait till the end because this. I
Well,
was just directed at
it's
it.
like being served, I guess. I actually brought it up, I got it up, you saw it. You can do with it what you want.
I can't allow you to speak to it right now.
Oh, I'm not gonna, I didn't say I was gonna speak to it.
Well, then please take a seat.
Will do.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
And he can't speak at all what he was gonna speak about?
You can speak on any topic you'd like to speak on at the end of the meeting, and we've constantly talked about that rule. That's our rule of order. And we would like you to speak to that issue at the end if you're able and willing.
Oh, the same issue that was just brought up.
Yes,
Okay, even though it is on the agenda, I mean, it's pertaining to
it
an
is not,
agenda item.
it is not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
It's not?
Well, it's a concern that there was a conflict of interest the last time, that there could be a conflict of interest this time. Is that the concern?
It may be, Commissioner Lautner,
Okay.
but I would invite people to look at our board packet before the meeting or contact our administrator if there's a question about what's on the agenda. I think I must follow the rules and I apologize for that. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
David Kiesel,
Yes.
Suns Bay Township. I agree with Patty. 5 more signed copies. We're playing by your rules. It's on the agenda.
I'm going to take just a short recess, and we would hope that it'll give people a chance to try to be as respectful for us and our rules as we are to you. You do not have the right to come to a public meeting and run the meeting or get up during the meeting and hand deliver things without being recognized.
I was asked to come up there. You did. You asked me. Public comment. You're the first.
Are we-
Anybody know?
We are on recess.
I'm out like you did last week. Maybe keep going. Hey, Ty.
The agenda.
Ty, you're my commissioner, my district.
Because I don't understand the rules. I'll go look them up, just tell me where they are.
I will speak to that during commission
Okay, thank
comments. Thank you.
Yeah.
We want to- Okay, where's,
Oh, yeah.
They go.
Oh, yeah.
are you ready? Michelle? Are you ready? Reconvene our session and before we open it up again to public comment, I'd just like to remind everybody that this board approved these rules to try to streamline the meetings and make sure that we got our business done. I don't care whether you have red shirts on or blue shirts on. If you don't follow the rule, you're going to be asked to wait till after the meeting to speak. And I was reminded just a minute ago that I don't have to apologize for following the rules, but I really try to be respectful. And I respect every one of you for coming here tonight, but I must enforce our board rules. Our first public comment is only on topics that are on the agenda. And the solar grant that you were talking about is not on the agenda tonight. The word energy is on here, and if you see an item on the agenda and you'd like details of what that's going to be, you could look in the board packet, or you could call the administrator, or you could call any one of the commissioners and ask them what that agenda is. But I must be very careful about following our rules and asking you to only speak on issues directly related to the items on the agenda of the Board of Commissioners.
The validity of that?
I would ask that you not speak from your seat, and I'd ask you to be courteous, and we will be courteous. Now, with that, I would invite other public comment of anybody that would like to speak to something on the agenda. Mr. Ashley?
Keith Ashley, Leelanau Township. I wanted to address item 7B, which is the wood chips at Miles Kimberly Park. several months ago, that came up for discussion here about doing it, and you had a lot of discussion, and somebody was here, as I recall, talking about it. And it's constantly been referred to as wood chips. But in a little research I did, there's wood chips and then there's playground chips. And I'm just curious and want to make sure that what you're buying are playground chips, not wood chips.
Thank you. Any other public comment on an item on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Plan on coming. Hi, I'm Alan Campbell. I'm addressing the Energy Futures Task Force because what I just heard was that the grant application itself was the culmination of an ethics complaint that you received. I really don't understand how that is not related to the application.
Campbell, that is not the item on the agenda. And when we get to the agenda, you will see what's on the agenda. Because it has the word energy in it, does not mean it's related to the.
Okay, so what you received was not something related to this grant application?
That is not, that is correct.
Okay, I didn't know that. I just saw this on the agenda, so.
Well, it's the third time I've said it's not.
I know, I didn't know there was 2 Energy Futures grant applications that the county was looking at. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to an item on the agenda? Yes, Ms. Weather.
I would like to speak in regard to 7C, Point Broadband Revised Agreement.
Pardon, which one?
Point Broadband Revised Agreement, is that okay? Can I speak?
7C.
All right, so they came in, Point Broadband came in and went all the way down Eagle Highway, which is where I live. And when they did that, they cracked my driveway. They put in a big box about this big, and my driveway is cracked where they took their backhoes and went down into the ravine. And so I have about 6 cracks in my driveway. And I want you to know about that because they're not using any kind of equipment to prevent that. And the reason I know that is because we just allowed our neighbor to put in or to use our driveway to access a septic system that needed to be repaired. And they came in and put a bunch of gravel there. And so our driveway wasn't cracked by all their heavy equipment. But Point Broadband or whoever their contractor is not doing that. So you need to be aware that everywhere they're putting in these big boxes, you're going to have some kind of liability. What do I do about my cracked driveway?
Give me a call.
I'll give you a call. Okay. And one other thing, my neighbor came over and she was looking at everything and she said she doesn't have Point Broadband and she wants it. They sent her a letter. She called and they said it's not available. So we're really concerned also that they're not going to cover the amount of people that they were supposed to cover. And I just have this weird feeling, and a lot of people have been saying this, that Spectrum's going to come in and buy them. So after we give them $5 million, is that what their plan is, to just be bought out?
Yep.
And then all of us are going to be left with no internet. I still don't have a count on how many subscribers they have. Last time we found out there were 300, and I think that came to $17,000 per subscriber. So when you guys start going on about the energy's future, we look at the pattern of incompetency that we're seeing with the fiber optics. And this is our money, our taxpayer money, and we just want it spent responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you very much for coming tonight. Any commissioner comments?
I would just like to say that often Point Broadband installs, and then they turn the cabinet on later, after they've done a complete section. So just because they went by doesn't mean it's available tomorrow. So
Then why the letter?
so that it would be good, though, to give us a call, because our broadband manager with an address could address that question.
I understand it, they won't activate anything until it's been reviewed by us and we signed off on it and it's been installed. Right, it's supposed to be installed and then they will, I don't know when they start activating, but I can assure you they would rather do it sooner rather than later. We may have a $5 million investment, they got a $17.5 million investment, so they're just as anxious to get things going also, so.
Mr. Rexroad?
Just to follow up on the Point Broadband thing, there is on the website and both a way to register an email complaint and you can phone them. Because they got their boring machine slid up against the fence in front of my house. And I couldn't tell if any damage was done, but I called them and said, hey, you know, this doesn't look good, but they got it loose. But someone did follow up with me and say, was everything okay? And so I think, you know, not that you can't talk to when you want, but I think probably the fastest way is to go right to the horse's mouth, and they seemed in their response to me to be interested in making sure that anything that got damaged, and actually when they finish the job in front of my house, looked kind of ugly, a different crew comes through and does like the dressing and seating than the install crew. So, you know, that was taken care of in a timely manner also. So there's a process that you can use, not that you can't call the administrator as well, but right direct to the horse's mouth is the fastest way to get it done.
Oh.
And they were responsive to me.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna send it straight to the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rush?
Yeah, I'd just like to say also that that's why we divide up the county into districts. Each township has a district commissioner, and I really have asked many times, and I will ask again, that if you have a concern, come to us before or as soon as you have the concern and let us help you work on it. It's really hard to be in a public room and try to answer your questions, but if you email me, text me, or call me, or meet with me for coffee, a better chance that I can actually be proactive and get you an answer sooner than later.
Any other commissioner comments? Well, Renee
I
is,
have.
I was gonna answer Ms. Renee's question. You've asked a couple times on the number of subscribers. So I had a meeting today with the marketing team. They're telling us a couple of things. One, 100% of all the unserved residents, all of them, north of 204 will be served before the end of the year. They're currently connected to a third of those, north of 204, and about a third of that third is a subscriber. So we can get you more details, but that's broad brush. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Lauder, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's quite right. I just wanted to say, I did not support us going to an agenda-only public comment in the very beginning. As I said then, I welcome all public comment. You don't have to meet with me ahead of time. If you'd like to, you're more than welcome to. You're welcome to come here and speak. So what I don't like is it was done, as you say, to expedite these meetings. We waste more time on recesses because what we seem to be doing is, if it's not something we want to hear, we're gaveling our public down. And if you want to be real nitpicky, we just heard two things that technically were not on the agenda, but you allowed because apparently we wanted to hear it. And I'm just really disturbed by that. I don't like, I haven't liked it, and I've kept quiet several meetings when you gavelled our public down because you don't want to hear them. And you being broad, I don't like it at all. And I think it's rude, yes.
Any other public or any other commissioner comment? I will make one more commissioner comment, and Melinda, you have expressed that before. I don't care what we do, but we gotta follow our rules. So if you want to change the rules, I suggest that you add that to the agenda, and we'll see if this board would like to change the rule. But I am
As I said,
I am
don't want us to
obligated,
be nitpicky,
I am
because that's-
obligated to follow our rules.
but you're nitpicking and
I
you're not
disagree.
nitpicking
Well,
when you want to.
Okay. Ready to move on? Looking for a motion on the consent agenda. The consent agenda are those items that we have. And you've,
Top of the sheet.
right here, I found it. Let me read this. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such request will be automatically respected and will not need a second. And all the items on the consent agenda were approved tentatively by all commissioners at the last meeting. And that's why they're on the consent agenda. Commissioner Rexroth.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Melinda, did you vote?
Yes, it did.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We're now down to action item number 1.
Okay. Action item number 1, in your packet are 4 requests for from 4 separate agencies for tribal council allocation 2% funds. Anyway, with that, the first one is from the Leelanau County Family Court, and they would like to request a 12-passenger van to transport youth to various outings as part of the outdoor recreation program. 2 is from Housing North to expand their rental preservation program. The third one is from Leelanau County Historical Preservation Society, would like to expand their educational programs and fund 2 outdoor exhibits. And Inland Seas is seeking to retrofit the Tall Ship Alliance to accommodate youth overnights and expand their educational offerings to the youth in the area. When we review the applications, none of the applicants are seeking any match from the county. And so it's our recommendation that you approve us signing off on these grants and submitting them to the tribe. On another side note, what we have done, we have now put it on our calendars, or Lauren's got her on calendars, that 2 months prior to when the grants are due, she will be sending out a notification to all department heads, all elected department heads, all the chairs of all the committees that we have, and anybody else we can think of that's on a list, to start telling and mentioning it's time to think about grants and getting it before you at a certain date. So that's already been scheduled, and the next go around will be for the November cycle, in which some people are going to start seeing stuff come on or about October 1. That's when we're going to do it. So we've got it scheduled.
Mr. Russ.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the submission of applications from Housing North, Inland Seas, L-Chips, and the Probate Family Court to the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians for consideration of allocation of 2% funds.
Support.
Discussion.
Divide the question, please.
Yes, sir. Divide the question.
Yes, please.
Any other discussion before we divide the question? Okay, we'll first take the Leelanau County Probate Family Court for $35,000. Commissioner Lautner?
So is 30, it says 100%, is 35,000 total cost of
The van,
the
correct,
van
correct,
for a 12 passenger?
correct.
Where do you find that at?
I use Carla.
I think it's in their application.
And it's,
I mean, I'll go back and look again.
The basic pickup truck is 50,000.
If they're gonna find money, they'll have to get somewhere else, but that's the quote that they gave us.
I mean, they're gonna save money because we're not paying mileage for the individual people. Okay, which.
Which I pretty much yes, I know we're gonna save money, so Jen may ask you financial, well, Kathy's here as well. Do they intend, do you know, to pay entirely for the van with the grant, or are they taking some child care funds?
I did not see any matching in that document. And I was kind of thinking, wow, 35,000 per van.
That's kind of what I thought.
No,
Well, and the reason I wondered if they were using some of their own funds, I think
Does not say.
sometimes it's kind of handy to have that kind of a fleet vehicle for other departments as well, should they need, like if the sheriff were going to take a number of deputies to a training. Sometimes we take 2-3 cars downstate or whatever. If it could be used as a fleet vehicle would have been great, but I applaud them for asking for it, so hopefully we'll at least get that, but I hope it's the entire cost.
and they could be looking at trying to buy a good used one too, so. Who knows, but in their brief description, does state having a 12-passenger van, so it does state that in their brief application. And they have no local leverage match to go with it, so they're looking for 100%.
Well, I guess clarifying, I mean, that's clear from the grant application that there's no additional funding. How they're doing it, I have no idea, but it's no responsibility to us no matter what, so.
Well, I think that they did a budget for another 35,000 for a vehicle, you know, that wasn't in their budget this year.
No, it's not.
Okay.
You know, it's very well stated in there, local leveraging or match is 0.
Right, okay, very good.
Any other questions on this application? Okay, all those in support of approving the Leelanau County Family Court grant application for 35,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Housing North? Question? Discussion? All those in support of approving the Housing North application for $50,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Historical Preservation Society 3680, any discussion?
I would have liked to have seen them ask for more. I understand what they're doing and what they hope to do, and I really hope they're successful. And I hope they come back this fall and ask for more.
All those in support of the grant application from the Historical Preservation Society, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. M&Cs, $35,000. Discussion? All those in support of that application from M&Cs for $35,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, Kama and Gwen, you're asking permission to write it, to write a grant, to bring back to this group. Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. There's an opportunity for us to do a countywide energy survey. The Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force wants to represent all county residents as we move forward with mandated more environmental energy coming from renewable and green sources. So in order for us to tap in and figure out which direction the county wants, the majority of county residents want us to go in, a survey could help us identify maybe something that we're not seeing right now. So it's going to be a grant that covers all the costs. It's going to be through the Environment and Sustainability College of University of Michigan. They are graduate students that will come up here this fall and do various ways to get information from our county residents, compile that in a way that all of us can read it. It's going to be totally accessible and open to the public. And then that'll help guide our group as we go forward, looking for ways that we can help our citizenry and the county be more energy efficient and more dependent on renewable and green energy as we move into the future. So again, no cost to the county. It's just a survey. The first part is actually getting the grant, and then second, we'll actually go to the University of Michigan in the fall, present our project to the students that are looking for them as part of their graduate work, and hopefully attract a really great team. And they'll come back and work with us very closely. And throughout the whole process, we'll be seeking public input to make sure that we're, making sure we're asking the right questions, along with these experts to really capture the sentiment of energy in Leelanau County.
Just to clarify that the grant, if you approve this and we move forward with the grant proposal, which will come back to you at your June meeting to approve, to submit, the grant's going to be sent to Eagle Community Energy Management Grants. There's some money that's going to do this type of work. So the grant will be, the total grant package will be in your packet for review.
Okay, so just point of order is that we're not actually authorizing the grant under this
No.
bill, we're authorizing the writing grant to bring back to us to see if we approve with the
What?
grant. That's, so we got another,
You have another step that we'll be going through. What I'm trying to assist folks with is that before anyone spends time and energy of going out and seeking grants or anything like that, it's important that this board knows that that's coming, because it's this board that has to authorize the grants, nobody else. It's you that does it. This board or this county accepts that grant, everything runs through the books. So it's better to find out if you're okay with doing it before actually waiting until it shows up and it's the deadline. Oh, we gotta do this now. Well, you didn't know anything about it. Kind of causes a bit of confusion. But right now, you're saying, go ahead, put a grant application back together for our review. And if we're successful, if we are satisfied with that, then we can approve the actual submission, which will be submitted by staff, not by the task force, but by the city staff will be sending it forward.
And it would be on our June agenda item, so we would accept public comment on that grant application at that time.
Right.
Anybody have a motion?
There's none written, so.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, you've got that? Oh,
Yeah.
Commissioner Elder.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners authorize the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force to prepare a grant application to Eagle Community Energy Management Grants for the U of MC's project proposal as outlined in May 10, 2024 communication from Task Force Chair Joe DeForest, and be presented for recommendation at the June 11, 2024 Board of Commissioners Executive Session and possible approval at the June 18, 2024 Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Leonard?
Yes, this task force was formed, I believe, last November. Maybe the first meeting was December. October, okay, so October till May. And when it was formed, they were supposed to do research and then come back in a year with some recommendations, if I do remember correctly. This is May, and this is already the second grant that this group is already trying to do. It's nowhere near a year yet. So we already have concerns of ethics violations, and we already have concerns of Open Meetings Act violations with this committee of minutes that apparently now have been posted and meeting dates that were not posted. So I just have some really grave concerns about a lot of this stuff.
Commissioner Elder?
So I understand that some people had that thought that we would just sit around and talk for a year and then at the end propose some things. That was not our intent at all, and that would be fairly impractical to sit around for a year and talk. No, we had a year to do some things. One of our goals also, there is grant money out there, which is our tax dollar, your tax dollar. And one of our big intents was, let's bring some of that money home so it can work for us here. And that's what we're doing here. As far as the OMA thing, this was a task force. It's been reviewed by attorneys. There were no OMA violations per the attorney. Minutes were submitted, were taken the very first meeting. There are minutes for every single meeting. So that need not, we're always open and willing to talk to anyone who has concerns about that. But at this point, no one has found that. So that's what our purpose was, and we believe we should be active for our citizens here.
Mr. Kramer?
Yeah, I just want to chime in and say, I mean, I think it's great that you guys are working so hard and are attempting to move us forward in a specific direction that, you know, really will represent, I think, the majority of the next generation of Leelanau County, because I think we really need to focus on that because these seats only last so long. So what are you working here for? But anyway, to that end, I would like to see everyone here just maybe think positively of our neighbors, and that maybe we are all trying to work our best and our hardest at moving forward things that aren't like some sort of conspiracy theory or some kind of agenda. We're just all doing our very best, and to keep that in the back of your mind when we're having conversations with one another, whether we agree or disagree on any sort of topic, would be helpful for all of us in this room. Thank you.
Commissioner Rexroth?
Just going back to Commissioner Lautner's comments on Mr. DeForest, I mean, I assume even though this was received, I haven't seen this, I'm not intimating any way that it's either accurate or inaccurate. I assume that's something though that we look into. Well, the document given by the, even though it was given during the wrong part of public comment, or, I mean, I guess they could just come back and give it to us at the end of the meeting too, if someone wanted to stay to make sure that it happened. And I'm not in any way saying that that is endorsing it, because I haven't seen its content before tonight, but it is a point of order.
The only thing I can do is the grant application that was submitted, that's all I can do.
And it's spelled out. Exactly.
That information should be in the grant application.
And it is,
Yeah.
very clear.
But we want to hear more about the concern at the end.
I guess I'm just trying to make that point, just, and I agree with that, I mean, I'm not endorsing it or saying it's valid or not, but I think it, you know, let's want to make sure that we do look into it, so understand.
Commissioner Kramer, and then Commissioner
Both
Lautner.
things can be true. So as far as I know, it is standard practice. Also, if we need to run it by legal, go ahead and see if there's a conflict of interest. So I mean, like, everyone can be appeased here.
Yeah, agreed.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yes, so you will remember when that was presented to us, I tried to ask those questions at that time, and Mr. DeForest had an opportunity to answer those questions at that time. But instead of answering the questions, he talked over me and argued with me and took up all my time to where you, Mr. Chairman, said I had no more time. So I did try to ask those questions at that time and was shut down. So I think that may have cleared up. So if there are people concerned at this time, rightfully so, because they haven't gotten an answer from that. As far as these meetings go, we have always yielded transparency and accountability when it comes to these meetings, whether they're committee or whatever. If there's going to be a recommendation coming back to this board, we have always posted those meetings, and we've always kept minutes from those meetings for somebody deputized or from our clerk's office as mandated. So we have always yielded to transparency. So why we wouldn't now, I don't know, but I've seen a lot of that this last year. And that really disturbs me. So I just encourage us to try to get back to just trying to be as transparent as possible so that people are not concerned about this sort of thing.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment? I haven't spoke to it, John. I'm supporting this because I think this is exactly what we formed the task force to learn about. And this is to survey our residents and use the University of Michigan folks to help us learn about opportunities and attitudes and needs. So I certainly support it. Yes.
There's a laid out right over there. I think our energy future sets needs to work up. Yeah, that's true.
Have to
Commissioner
roll back
Ross?
power by 1% a year, so they probably are 1%.
I have worked very, very closely with Joe DeForest. There is no ethical problem with what he is doing. It is pretty standard that when you receive $1.23 million, that there has to be some oversight of the grant. And since he is the most knowledgeable person on that team, he is one person that will be receiving a small stipend to help us make sure that this project is carried out accordingly to the grant requirements, our county, the lawyers, all that. If anyone wants to question his ethical behavior, come to me. I will support this gentleman 100%.
I think the concern
I
is
think
that
we're
he
getting a
didn't
little off
recuse
topic
himself.
of this agenda item. This agenda item is for this grant application,
Well,
and that's what we're going to vote on. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Great. Next one is the creation of the finance department. As indicated in my overview last week, this item and the next item, the intent here is to try to get the stage set. And really we're trying to set the foundation for the next county administrator, chief financial officer. There are two things that I have felt in reviewing this with the county clerk as well as our interim finance director. That the first thing we need to do is to actually create a finance department. Now, we have a finance department, but it's not in name. You don't see it anywhere in the budget. You just see accounting. So the first thing, action that I wanted to recommend is that we authorize the creation of a finance department and we eliminate the accounting department. Now, all we're doing is changing titles. That's all that's happening, so that's where it is. And so the department would become the finance and accounting department. The second item would be to, effective on June 1st, 2024, and the reason why I say June 1st, it's just the end of the month, and when the finance and accounting department does all the stuff, they'll know how much has been spent out of one department line item, so they can transfer the money to the next department. Transfer what's left in the administration account and move it over to the finance and accounting department. But we will change the staffing, your brief employee master list, to take the finance director out from underneath the administration and move it over underneath the finance and accounting department. The finance and the assistant finance director, that position will remain, but we are not actively seeking to fill that position. That'll be a discussion that the next administrator CFO will have after that person has been on board for a while, to see what they feel needs to be recommended to this body, more than likely through its budget process, to see what's needed. But we don't want to eliminate the position, but we don't need to fill it at this point. And then what we're asking is that we would change the accounting clerk from one full-time accounting clerk to 2 full-time accounting clerks, and that may be all you need. But working with Kathy, there's a lot of work that's being done in there, and Kathy needs to be starting to spend more time instead of being a modified county accounting clerk, working with Elizabeth, who's doing a great job in there. We want to start working on, this is another thing I did say, we need to start working on budgets and CIP. And there's the processes that we need to go through, and her attention needs to be paying more to that and just overseeing the clerks instead of being in there doing some of the clerk work. So that's the recommendation that we are doing it. Everything else will come through the budget process that you'll be looking at, especially with the next administrator. But I think working with Kathy, we need to start that process so that somebody that walks in here the 1st of August won't be all of a sudden having to do all that. I like to assist to get it starting, to get it moving, and I won't be here to finish it, but at least I can help get it started.
Well, you don't know that for sure. Commissioner Algar?
I just have a quick question. I thought that you had already advertised for a second accounting clerk.
Not yet. We did
So-
one, but that was supposed to be a part-time position. And the thing is, we're asking to have someone come on that's well qualified and can do the work, but they have no guarantee how long they're gonna be here. It's in your red line item, you said a part-time clerk. We need a full-time clerk.
Yeah, you need a full-time
We need a
clerk. I
clerk.
thought you were already hiring one.
No, we want to, but we realize that we're putting that individual in a spot whereby we couldn't guarantee any. Once they learn our system, be gone.
So this is effective immediately?
Yes,
Okay.
so we can process that.
And
There
then
is
you
a,
can
there is a
start to hire
suggested motion on your cheat sheet.
Wait a minute, let me take, I got it. Jeez, let me go through this, let me finish. I've already mentioned the wages will go out of the administration fund into the finance department, whatever's left with the finance director. And your red line version, which whoever made that suggestion last week, thank you very much, because I did do the red line version. And there was more red lines in there than I originally intended, but a lot of the stuff you've already done. So what you're doing is rescinding all those red lines.
Commissioner Rexroth.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners authorize the creation of the Finance and Accounting Department. Approve their authorizing of staffing levels, including the addition of one account clerk. Transfer of unspent finance director wages and benefits from the Board of Commissioners Department of the Finance and Accounting Department, and to rescind November 11th, 2023 action of the interim finance director reporting to the Board of Commissioners as recommended in the May 3rd, 2024 memorandum from the new interim county administrator.
support.
Any further discussion?
I just speak to that briefly. I appreciate the changes in the red line, and I withheld this last time because I wanted to review your new budget rules, which I don't know if that's just the second portion, I guess, but after reviewing them, I'm comfortable with it. So, okay.
Any other comments? Commissioner Lautner?
Yeah, I'm okay with most of this. The creation of the finance department, the additional account clerk we're going to need. And you were hard to hear down here, but we'll keep a finance director and will there be a deputy as well?
Both of positions are still in play.
Four total.
But we're not gonna fill, we were not gonna advertise, and we're not
So
gonna
the
fill
only
the
thing-
assistant finance director
Right,
position.
so, that much I am okay with. What I don't like is pulling this out from under the Board of Commissioners at this time. I would really prefer waiting on that. I really don't see the rush on that part of it at all. I think we can do the rest. It's working well, and I would prefer, I'll leave that for you.
Commissioner Algar?
And I support this in entirety. I think it's entirely appropriate that our interim finance director report to our administrator. They are both here. They work together well. It's cumbersome for her to have to go to us. We're not here, we're not around. He is integrated into this. They are both integrated into a system and working together every day. So I support this.
Anybody else? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-0. The only issue I had with what Richard said was he keeps telling us he won't be around. And you don't know that.
No, I don't, and we'll get to that down to the last part of the meeting, okay? We'll get down to that, so there's no confusion. We'll get them work for you. Don't get
But I
excited
noticed
yet.
you keep
May not like
saying
the terms.
it.
You know, anyway.
It would also be appropriate this time to thank Michelle and Jen and Kathy for getting us to this point, because this is progress, I think. So thank you.
Everybody's gonna work together.
Richard, your next one is the budget rules.
The budget rules, I decided not to put the red, blue, and every other kind of line that I had in there from last week. But basically, you see the rules. I think the biggest thing that's changing in here deals with the purchasing, which is item number 14. You know, and basically, I took out the word interim. A finance director is a finance director, just like a county administrator is a county administrator, whether interim or not interim. We're serving the same role, so just took it out. But again, it's cleaning up the copy so that the next person that walks in doesn't have to worry about trying to get it cleaned up. The one thing that I did is working through the purchase policy and what I heard last month at the meeting about the levels of waiting 5,000 on a capital and the different levels, and then the administrator has a $10,000 spending limit. It kind of mixes apples and oranges. It's still fruit, but it still mixes it in some ways. So following the example that I saw in previous places that I've had the privilege of being, as well as Grand Traverse County, of course, their amounts are much higher, but I'm not recommending anything, that we go through the purchase and policy, which includes all purchases, not just the capital items or professional service, but we use all of them. But we would use that anything up to $999.99. Department heads or the elected official, when I say the administrators that are here in the office every day, such as the county clerk or whatever. Go out and you have authority. You don't have to bring it to anybody. Just go get it done, you know, and it's there. Anything from $1,000 to $4,499. You need to get 3 verbal quotes that have them documented, and then you can move forward with it. The next one is going from $4,500 to $9,999. We have to have 3 written quotes verified that we can show to you. Here are the 3 quotes that we're asking you, not do a formal RFP. As you will imagine, it takes a little bit more time and effort, and also it takes more time and effort from the contractors when because there's a lot of other items that they've got to complete. And then anything over $10,000 has to be competitive bid, no matter what the project is. And then what we did is that what I heard last month was there may be conditions or reasoning why we should not go for competitive bidding, but you shouldn't wait until the day that we come in here and ask you to approve a contract and says, oh, we want you to waive competitive bidding. You should know about that beforehand, and the department head should be well aware of that and said, well, they didn't want to waive it. I didn't have a good enough reason to request a waiving. I have to go out for an RFP. But that way, once again, you're not caught up, well, we need to get this done. And now you feel uneasy, which I'm not arguing the point, about having to waive it when your policy says you can't waive it. You can waive it, but you should do that before we go out and get the three quotes, or we have a vendor. We need to explain it to you and why. We may not give you numbers, but we usually, department heads will usually know it's going to cost more than $10,000 and why it should be done. So that's why I stepped that in there, ask you before we bring it to you. But I'm saying as a price ready for you to award a contract. Those are the 2 main things. Everything else I left alone. So
Let's get a motion on the table and then we can talk. Yes, Commissioner Kramer.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt the amendments to the FY 2024 budget rules outlined in the May 3rd, 2024 memorandum from the interim county administrator.
Support.
Discussion. Yes, Commissioner Richter.
So I'll move forward with this, and I agree with your intent, and it clears up some things, but one of the concerns I have is anytime you're gonna tell someone ahead of time, when they're giving you that bid, that they don't have to be competitive, it's not gonna garner the best price from that vendor. That's just saying, that's just the way the world works, but.
well, and I understand that, and that's where you guys get to say, no, we feel better if you were to go this route or this route, you know, and I understand that, but that's why they need to ask you in advance instead of waiting till the day they're asking you to award a contract, and here's why we want you to waive the bidding process. That's letting the horse out of the barn, or it's closing the barn door or something like that.
It's a living document, so
Yeah, it is a
I'll run with
living
it.
document,
We'll see how that works out.
Well, we'll see how it works out the next couple of months, and you can always change it.
And Mr. Kramer.
Love it. We needed an outline for this, and we needed to be able to give some autonomy to our department heads and, you know, like allowing some of these things to move forward without us, because those lower price items, I really, you know, I don't feel like we need to always be in the quagmire. I get it, it's government, it takes a while, but let's, you know, I like this, I like it a lot. Thanks.
Commissioner Lautner.
Well, as long as it's still understood that you left all the other budget rules and procedures in place, so
Yeah.
those must be followed. It's
Yeah.
easier to follow them than to go back and do things such as
Right,
the sales tax, et cetera.
and if over the next couple of months or a few months, especially as you get toward the end of December, you're gonna, we'll look at your rules again. If it's not working out this way, you can always modify it. You say you do this once a year. Again, this is setting the stage for the next individual not having to deal with this. But staff will be watching it and we'll all be getting feedbacks.
Ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in support of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion approved 7-0. All right.
Underneath that, there's another item that you asked about, and just wanted to give you a brief overview. Don't want my notes again. We got some documents in there, but at this point, I want to thank Kathy for helping to put this together or getting me all the numbers. But the audit report should show, when we get it hopefully next month, that your estimated year-end fund balance is going to be $7,678,319. And that's going to end up being a $66,731 increase of your fund balance over last year's ending for fund balance. So that's what you'll have. And I kind of looked at that and I said, of that $66,000 or $66,800, of that increase, it can be attributed to that $55,000 of the CIP was not spent in the parks. So you pretty much broke, if they had spent their $55,000 on capital projects last year, if they got together, I would say you would have had a budget last year that were pretty close to even. So if you finish going through this, Commissioner Lautner? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
please.
Anyway, so I wanted you to see that's where you're going to be, you know, and that amount around amounts to a 46% fund balance, you know, compared to this year's budget. Then I went through, you got the other documents, but then I went in here, you know, because some of this discussion was dealt with as it relates to parks last week. Or at least I assume that I gave you the capital outlay list as it relates to the parks budget, what they had requested last year in the capital outlay request. You know, there was the old settlers gazebo repair, Veronica Valley, Portageon enclosure and walkway, playground equipment, Veronica Valley loop phase one. We got a Miles Kimberly standalone kiosk, special request for $200,000 for a paved loop trail out Miles Kimberly. And then those were the capital projects, which would have totaled $340,000. But what I also heard last month, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the one for Miles Kimberly, there may be something of playground equipment of replacing it. And I don't see that on this list. And so what I'm trying to work with the Parks and Rec Commission is somewhere to get this conversation going where you can submit grants, you can submit requests, but it ends up being this body that makes final decisions on everything. Okay, and the rest of us in here, except for you, we give you our recommendations, we give you our thoughts, we give you our advice. But there's 7 of you that make the final decision of how your money is going to be spent on a yearly basis through the budget and how you plan that out over the next several years. So my question to you is, of all these, you don't have to answer them tonight, I would, and how you want to do that, which is the most important or not. And then you asked, I think, Commissioner Rexroth, you asked for the list of capital outlay and funding recommendations that you all went through. And they're all in here, and I'm happy to say, at least I'm happy to say, that a lot of under the 2024 considerations are being worked on. It's not going to be complete like one tonight, the dam hydraulic seal replacement. You had put $20,000 aside for it. It'll probably come in under $20,000. Reseal the parking lot, I mentioned we had 2 bids. Both of them are under the $40,000 mark that we received. North base, we're moving, or the north center, the Durham Center north facade. We're working on that. If you'd like to move the capital improvements, you put an additional $55,000 into that for $110,000. I don't think they'll be spending that much this year because by the time we get around going through the RFQs or the RFPs, getting the specs written, we'll be lucky to do half of that. And what I'm not asking, your desire is to go ahead and move that 55. We'll put it on next month's budget or next month's meeting for your approval to make that transfer. But I want to work with staff to see if there's a way that once we do that, we put it into a CIP account, I forgot the name of it, account that stays there so that next year you don't have to go back and reallocate money back into it. It's sitting there, it's ready to be used on those items. But I'll want to explain that to you when we get to it next week. I know we do it in the city. I know the Grand Traverse County does the same thing. But transfers the money to another, it's still general fund money, but you don't have to take everything back to zero and start over again. There's a way to do that. So it's held and it's there. And you just got to name whatever projects you think is the highest. It's there, but you still got to prove it.
Commissioner Lautner?
Did I get it all clear? I know I'm racing along here because you have me rolling here.
I didn't do, no, you're killing me. We've never budgeted that way. So it's kind of concerning because our fund balance has been dipping. We have more tax dollars coming in every year, but we've got so many obligations out there beyond what we have coming in, including broadband. So that concerns me, but we can talk about it. So I guess my question would be, why would you want to wait till next month to just transfer the 55,000?
I wanted to talk with staff about this idea and bring it back to you. There's no rush in there's no rush in spending this.
I understand that. I guess my concern is, okay, I sit on parks, I'm all for it, but do I want to do that for my other departments? Because that would certainly start a precedent. So I guess I would prefer that we've been talking about this for about 7 or 8 months now, 7 months. So I would prefer to transfer it now. Let's just take care of this issue and then talk about that issue separate. It would be my preference.
I would ask for they're not ready to spend $110,000. So there's nothing that's going to happen in the next 30 days.
No, I think my board just wants to know we're going to get it. We've been.
We are going to get it because it'll be on your, if I see heads nodding up and down, it'll be on your agenda next month. I would ask to let me do a little bit more of my home. Let me do a little bit more of my homework and bring it back to you. And if it doesn't do it, we'll still get it transferred.
Okay. I heard you say 340,000, so I was gonna hold you to that, so.
What? The what, the
You said
340,000?
340,000, you did some math, and I was gonna hold you to that number, but we'll bring it back.
Well, that's all, well, that was all of their requests, and you didn't budget 340,000, and
We
in
never
some
have
way.
that much, and you, obviously, I was kidding you about that, but you hit the nail on the head. We've got way more projects than we've got money for. That's okay, we've just gradually tried to knock them out one at a time, pick one park one year, another year, and the third park the third year, and try to knock these things out. So that's why, we haven't been able to get a bid on the gazebo, so it's gonna be really important that we know there's going to be money there to move forward with that.
But what I hear, or at least from one, unless the rest of you are not gonna say anything, is that you want to transfer the money. You want to get them to do that and do that. Am I seeing some hands that going up and down?
We need to move it forward to June.
Yeah, and then we will get that done, but I want to make sure that we do it in such a way that you're not having to do this year in and year out. But once it's there, if it takes like in January before they can let the bid, at least the funds have remaining. You're not rebudgeting every year to play catch up with that.
Well, I heard,
But I would ask, give me the time to do that in the right way, so you're doing this in one fell swoop.
I heard Melinda say she wants to do it now, but I think the administrator suggested June. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah. I'm very
So no
trusting.
motion?
Yeah.
We'll see this back on our agenda in June.
It will be on your agenda one way or the other. If my idea doesn't work out, then this is all you're gonna see, just move it over, so.
There you go. I agree with Commissioner Lawler that we'd want to see the two pieces. One, the proposal to send to 55, and your other proposal that it remains there permanently after it's sent.
Yeah, I want to see how we can.
Those
make
are
it-
two distinct issues in my head, and I think that Commissioner Lawler's had as well.
And I agree with you, because they're gonna be two separate things.
And I,
Commissioner Pronger.
and I guess I have questions about the precedent issue and other departments wanting to do the same thing. So I support thinking this through
Yes, this was
and
a,
talking with people.
Well, and of course,
Because other departments are gonna wanna do the same.
well,
thing.
there's other capital improvement projects out there, that go through your listing, through the dam, and there's nothing, of course. If we get the walkway kind of going, which you've already promised, willing to do that if we get an RFP out.
we just,
Well, we just want to work on this, try to
it's just
speak.
depended on those rollover dollars to balance for next year's budget every time. And this is an oddity. It was out of our control that we were not allowed to spend the budget last year. It was,
There's a lot of things that happened, but one thing is for sure, there will usually continuously be more things that need to be done than you have time to do in 1 year. And either it's money or it's time or it's just people, so it's not here, it's everywhere. So stick with us. I think Kathy and I will be able to come back with something if my idea works out. That's why I need another clerk, so I can start bothering her more.
all right,
Okay, so we're going to revisit this in June and we'll move on.
let's do it.
And I'll be talking to the Parks and Rec Commission.
1E, Richard, temporary maintenance staff.
Oh, I'm sorry to inform you that one of our lead staff members in our maintenance department is going to be out for the next 6 weeks. We're hoping that after 6 weeks that we can have him back, to do light duty, that would be help us. But as you can imagine, the grass is not stopping to grow. All the other things that need to fix is not being done. What we're asking you to do is to allow us to hire temporary help until for the summers or for the next 6 weeks. And then we'll see where things stand after 6 weeks. If we need to go longer, we'll bring it back to you. But we're going to need the bodies in here to get the work done in the county. And it's not just the parks, it's everything that we do here.
There is a suggested motion on your sheet, Kama.
Move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the proposal as presented, increasing the maintenance department's authorized staffing level to include a temporary employee for a time period of 6 weeks at 40 hours per week to cover the unexpected absence and amend the budget as necessary, not to exceed gross wages of $6,100 plus the applicable FICA match.
Support.
Any discussion? Commissioner Lott.
Thank you. So we are going to, I would imagine that though Parks and Rec wasn't mentioned, that we would be amending the Parks and Recreation budget as necessary.
I think that the
Kathy,
individual that,
Kathy.
oh, go ahead.
So people can hear you.
Okay, the individual that is absent for this period of time is assigned to the government center and the LAC. That's where those wages are all budgeted
So
toward.
the grass not being mowed is this.
Well,
here?
we're pulling, no, we have a contract with Spinnikins and they mow the grass here.
Right.
But the parks, we have a new employee out there and his wages are 100% for the 6 months, May to October, budgeted to parks. Now, we pull, I believe, and I don't know how they're using this new individual, if they're bringing him here to help fill the void. We've only had this staffing void for about 4 days.
4 days.
So we're anticipating getting our new hire back out to the parks and this this person to be here.
Temporary out in the parks, and our 2 part-timers will be out in the park, so we're going to have to readjust. When we need
Okay.
another body.
Okay, so it's not our park employee, so we're not paying our park employee that's off and then having to adjust that level.
I think it'd be easier just to pay this individual out of
building and ground.
Grounds, okay. So should we?
But all this is out of our maintenance staff. So,
Okay,
Any other questions?
okay.
Mr. Kramer?
Just want to mention that it is no mow May.
No, Momi.
I read the article.
No, that's just.
I reread the article in the Record Eagle as of Sunday, and I will be mowing my grass at my house this weekend.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yes, I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the proposal as presented, increasing the maintenance department's authorized staffing level to include a temporary employee for a time period of 6 weeks at 40 hours per week.
Which motion do we want to vote on? Melinda's motion or the same one that Cameron Ross made?
I support both motions.
Wow.
It's fine.
Let's take those votes separately.
Well, I was gonna spell it out, but that's
Split the
okay.
question.
Are we ready to vote on Cameron's?
So I just want to
Yes.
clear that it's going to be.
All those in
Which
support
budget?
of Commissioner Ross's
Okay, are we
motion,
going-
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Motion approved 7-0. Sorry, Melinda.
It's okay. The clerk said she'll have it. So it is going to build the buildings and grounds budget.
Yes.
So, gotcha. That was all I was going to add, so.
The Marine Safety Grant Acceptance, Kathy, do you have something to say on that?
I just wanted to clear up the motion for the approval, and that I believe it's written so that you authorize the chair to sign for submission to the clerk's office. The clerk's office certifies because they are the chief or the finance officer for the county, and it's not the person, it's the position, as well as, and then submit it through finance. Is that clear?
This is all being done to correct the motion in the right manner.
Slight modification to follow the policy of Washington Finance Department.
So we got a proposed motion there?
For the next one, the marine safety grant, I'll read it. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the marine safety grant agreement as awarded from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in the amount of $45,100, and authorize the board chair to sign the agreement as the grantee, and that the clerk certify and finance department submit to the DNR portal. Support.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
Okay, the last thing here is for your meeting on the 30th and 31st to do interviews. I'm gonna pass this way, but the way we have got it planned is that we have a recommendation from the chair to hold a special meeting on May the 30th and 31st of 2024. We're having one special meeting. And the way the special meeting will work, it'll start on May the 30th at 9:45 a.m. You'll go through your 4 interviews at that time. And once the interviews are over with, you will recess until the following day for the interviews. Come back at 9 o'clock on the 31st and resume your special session. We'll get everything set up for, but you're not gonna have to adjourn a meeting and then start another meeting. It's all the same meeting. We're just gonna recess and do it that way. Now, what I need to do is I gotta get 2 more signatures of commissioners that's willing to put this as a special meeting. And besides, because Ms. Kramer decided to pick on me tonight, you get to sign next. Yes, so there you go. And whoever else down through there. Here you go, ma'am, I'll be glad to get you.
Any questions for Mr. Lewis about anything on this?
Okay, the only thing that we're hoping for is that if we get it changed, like the 30th, we're just saying it's all gonna be in this building, but if we get a change, that would be up here, we'll have everything posted out here where the meeting is going to be held, but it's in this building. The 30th at this time is gonna be in the basement, the 31st will be up here. But we may have to go down 31st if they don't get their work done in town on the 30th. We're not stopping the improvements in this room, so take it from there.
And we will meet 15 minutes early to make sure that we plan for the questions that we're going to be asking.
All the meetings will be televised for people to watch on our YouTube, on YouTube, so they can watch. And the candidates will be set up that those that are going to be meet with us by Zoom, they'll be told how to get the Zoom in, but they're the only individuals that will be on the Zoom account. So.
We expect an meeting early again on the 31st before as well.
I don't think we have to that day.
You think you'd be okay?
Well,
Okay.
we're going to start everything up at 1:15 just to make sure everything's working, especially the videos that we want. But you do not start until 9 o'clock. Be in your seats at 9 o'clock. You'll be counted as absent. No.
9 o'clock, we're talking.
On the 31st.
On the 31st is 9 AM, because I didn't have a time.
And we will have public comment before the interviews.
You'll have public comment, agenda specific on the 30th. You will have no other public comment until the end of the meeting on any topic on the 31st.
So any of the public that would like to give us advice on our administrator search, your comment would be most welcome.
So all that being said, what time is that meeting? Should we start that meeting then on the 30th?
9:45.
That's not going to be enough
Not giving
time
enough
if you
time
want
for
to
public
discuss
comment.
public comment and questions.
Well, once we start, we're okay, but we'll try to hold it down to.
But
Well, we've
I
only got 1 hour with the first candidate. If he's planning on
Well,
starting at 10.
Well, maybe we'll make it work.
Should we meet at 9:30?
I think Commissioner Alder makes a valid point. You probably should start that meeting at 9:30 by the time you get through the pledge and the roll
Okay.
call and
But
the,
that's fine, change the sheet you're signing from 9:45 on.
I mean,
I'll be glad to change that right here.
9:30.
9:30.
So we will meet at 9:30, not 9:45. And it may be downstairs and may be here and public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. It'll all be posted out here in the end.
Thank you. I'd rather just have time to twiddle our thumbs rather than rush any of it.
Do we need a motion to change the time? No.
You signed a form.
There was no motion.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, sir. I will be right on time, but I have the airport finance meeting at 8 o'clock that night. So I'll try to hurry up on it, just in case I wouldn't want Mr. Lewis to mark me absent.
Okay. I will mark it.
And the clerk will remind us at that time that Mr. O'Rourke may be late.
As long as he's here by 10 o'clock, that's when the interview actually starts.
All right.
We're now down to,
Let me finish here. The other thing is, I keep reminding you of a July 31st date. It's just to keep you guys moving. That's all I've asked of you from day one when I was here. I will not abandon you. You will see me here until the next person's here. And if it's not until, because the one thing we don't know is whoever you select, what is the time frame that they have to leave where they are to come to here. I'm fully prepared to stick at least through the two meetings in August. But I will be taking more days off because I have family that's coming from Australia and I plan to play with my grandchildren. So you'll have me, or I'll just bring them to work and that'll keep you all busy. So
thank you for that. Thank you for that news.
I promise you I wouldn't abandon you.
Took some of the urgency off of next week's meeting.
I know I didn't either. I will remind you that morning at 9:15.
At this time, we have a review of financials. We'll start out with Kathy.
Sure.
Commissioner Lautner, you have anything?
Kathy answered all my questions before the meeting. I don't know if anybody else had anything that they wondered about.
Any questions from anybody else?
If I could just make a correction on your late that was on the dais when you arrived, if you'll just redate it to May 21st. It does have May 14th on it. Today's the 21st.
I think we're set. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We now have any committee reports, recommendations, or resolutions? I have one. I met with the broadband lift committee today, the messaging committee. We asked Point Broadband to talk to us about what they were doing to promote the fiber project and promote awareness. They are planning on being at the Senior Expo with a table. I don't know why they'd want it, but they're going to go to the Cedar Fest with an exhibit of some sort, I think.
Polka, have kielbasa.
And they are working, they're going to contact the enterprise, and they have a mailing that's going out. And they're looking at getting some office space for their staff, so they're here to help with the sales. And they say they're on target and on time. And Leelanau Township did ask for a special mailing from the supervisor to all of the Leelanau County residents. I saw it today. It's every house that's going to be connected is highlighted on a map of Leelanau Township. And I was asked to communicate to all of you, if you want that for your district, they could do that. It's very simple, and they would just mail that out or make it available in the supervisor's office. It was very informative. It was a good meeting. Yes.
I guess I have to, just in case, don't want anyone to forget.
Let me guess, your
We're-
township.
We're not done, and yours. We're not done when point broadband is done. We still have District 6 and part of 7 that need to be completed.
Yes, that was also on your list that we had in there.
That was, yeah, one of the applications I was speaking
Yes,
about.
and I saw that too.
I just have from the Solid Waste Council that they are supporting a workshop on composting for the backyard resident. All Leelanau County residents are welcome to come on Wednesday, the 29th from 9 to noon at the Core Farm Barn at Miles Kimberly Park to learn about backyard composting, diverting more organic waste from your kitchen and from your backyard away from the landfill. Free.
Thank you. Anything else? Any updates, staff reports? Well, we at this time then are ready for our second public comment section, 5 minutes. You can speak to us about anything. We'll listen carefully. We thank you for sticking with us. Thank you. You too. First.
My name is Janet Schoaf, and I'm from Leland. And Mr. Wessel, I am signing this letter also to you and to the board to see. I do not know Mr. DeForest and what Ms. Ross said about him being a really good man and he would do a great job. And I'm sure that may be right, but I really am concerned about the conflict of interest, and I'd like that to be looked at again. Yeah.
Please.
Can I get your name again? I'm sorry.
Yes, Janet Schoaf, S-H-O-A-F.
Thank you.
And since this is addressed to me, I'd like to give it to the administrator and ask you to check with legal and I'll investigate that. Thank you very much.
I will take this piece, I'll take this and I'll get the grant application and send it to you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Harry Steffens from Leland Township. Chairman Wessel, I also signed one of these letters that I would like to give to you, and I think there's an appearance here of conflict of interest, and I think that according to the way I understand the county policy, I think you should investigate it.
We will do that and we will report back. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kimball. It's good to see you here tonight.
Hey, good to see everybody. Good to be seen, not shown. I have a red shirt too. This happens to say Lake Leelanau Street Fair, so it's not. But sometimes I think we get caught up in I think the red shirts and how people present themselves, things like that. I understand the need for decorum, and certainly I respect that. But I think that decision should be based on what people bring to the table, what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are, what they bring here that can help county government run well. Part of this, I think, problem was a miscommunication I had. I heard what you said. I understood what you meant, but I didn't know there was another. I mean, I think that would be normal if you hadn't looked at the agenda or just looked at that agenda, which is what I did when I came in. So I thought, okay, I heard the complaint and sounded like the same, sounded like that was directly related as in the same grant. So I guess at some point in there before it got heated up, and I just wish that communication would have been a little better as far as letting folks know that there was two different grants. But I don't think people were talking to each other at that particular point. And I agree too on Joe DeForest. I've interviewed him, think he's a great guy. I think he's very dedicated to what he does. He is a professional in the energy business. I think it's important to know that. But what I heard was a dismissal of a conflict complaint, not based on the complaint itself, which is really what conflicts are. It's not something that a commissioner can decide. I know this fella, and therefore he's a good person, and he's very ethical. Ethical people have conflicts of interest and don't know them or don't realize them all the time. They're very, very involved in what they do. They're very dedicated. But I think what I'd like to say is it's not one commissioner who decides an ethics or a conflict. It is the words of your policy. What I was very disappointed was the dismissal of this complaint before anyone knew any of the facts. And to me, that's a disservice, because government has to run based on the laws and policies that it creates. And so what I heard was the policy is pretty simple. Public official, you can't advocate for something that you would benefit from. What I heard was, and I have seen the application, and it clearly states Joe DeForest, $45 an hour. That's you can't get any clearer than that. So I understand there's due process, but if folks would have just read what was presented, perhaps they would have yielded towards due process rather than dismissing what was before you right away. Nothing else. I do appreciate you guys. I know you sit through a lot, and I also know folks out here too, and they also really care about this county, and it's not just on one side of the table or the other. And the only other thing I got, other than thanks for the time, is just maybe some paperwork. You guys had one motion and I think 4 different votes. Maybe that's just fine. Everyone knew what you were doing, but I just want to make sure. Anyways, if you could just make sure that was according to Hoyle. Okay, all right. That was on when you did
grants.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kept saying voting on the motion, but there was only one motion made, and each time was a vote on the motion. So anyways, if you got cleared up, you got cleared. No big deal, probably. All right, thank you very much.
It was a division of the question, which is allowed under your rules, but I'll note it.
Okay, thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir. Behind Mr. Mikowski. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm David Mosher.
Yes.
I'm a Suttons Bay Township resident. I appreciate everybody's service. I likewise, the topic tonight has been about the potential conflict of interest. I'm not an attorney. I'm not sure if it came to my attention. So I also signed the same letter, and I would like to submit that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. You will see this back on the June agenda, so we will report out.
All right, thank you.
Other comment? Yes, Mr. Evans?
Rick Robbins, Elmwood Township. Thanks for your service. I just wanted to comment on one of the things you talked about tonight was temporary help you're asking for. Concern I have is, and everybody else does, especially employers, sounds like you need 2 people right away. And the question ours is, are we going to be able to find 2 people? And has anybody thought about going next door, talking to the sheriff and Lieutenant Roush? And we have inmates over there sitting around doing nothing. You know, down in Grand Traverse, they used to have the work crew. It does those inmates good. They could be working our summers in the park and doing the mowing and trimming and the maintenance work that we need. And it's cost effective to the taxpayers. They can be shoveling in the wintertime, but somewhere along the line or down the road or along the road here, we've kind of got away from the work crew. I don't know why, but I don't think anybody's talked to the sheriff or Lieutenant Roush, and that's an avenue that could fix this summer issue that we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. McDuffie?
Good evening. Just some thoughts today regarding the grant for the Energy Futures Task Force. It is my understanding that the county has no jurisdiction or cannot take any action to have jurisdiction over private property beyond any property they own or lease. And this grant is specifically, as was talked about today, is saying to encourage or misguide or force people to do things with their properties. The words I heard, some way that we would get residents to do things according to what our recommendations are from here. And I don't think that's possible. That would be interfering with private property. And so the other thing is, if this was such a serious issue and important, we should have a lawful petition from the people for this. Otherwise, by doing it by survey, the survey just gets your friends and neighbors to do what you want them to do in a survey, and that gives you the results. And that affects all the people, whether it's done right or wrong, it doesn't matter. So another issue I heard today is, I'm kind of curious, if I heard right, that we have we'll have a 7.5 million fund balance at the end of the year. Is that the number I heard correctly?
Close.
Close, okay. That is 50% of a $15 million budget. That's a lots of money to be laying around. Lots of taxpayers' money to be laying around. I don't know what the drawdown situation is like. That would be up to the finance people to tell us. There may be a drawdown date where, because of all the expenses and the flow of tax money's revenue in, there is a drawdown date which takes us down to 1 million. I can understand it. But I think it'd be a good exercise for this county commission to look at the issue of perhaps excessive fund balances, because those are taxpayer dollars. I know years ago, we had a treasurer that thought that we had $10 million in the DTR fund, squirreled away. People didn't know about it, but the commissioners knew how to use it. And that's $10 million and earning interest of 7-8% caused the county to have a lot of revenue on people's tax monies to spend more. That's kind of peculiar if you're trying to be doing things in a fair and honest way. A recent discussion here talked about the meeting a few days ago that we should get young people to serve on this commission. It is an impossibility for anyone to have hold a full-time job and honestly and faithfully serve on the county commission to provide good governments. It's an impossibility. That's because over the years, commissions have allowed themselves to do personal passion projects. And we've cluttered our whole governance with millages, projects that were not petitioned for by the people. They were self-initiated by county commissions without the permission from the people. That has resulted in, now I've seen as high as 200 pages of documents that have to be gone through by each commissioner before a meeting. 400 pages. It would take the supreme being and then others to help go through that. So if we have to find as a county government a better way to do things, a much better way. Otherwise, we're going to be just like the Chinese Communist Party. Public service. Those who run for elected office to serve the public, no one holds a gun to the head of any person to run for public office. Local government meetings, though, other than county commission meetings and Leelanau Township Board meetings, have been held at certain times. You could know automatically what they were. Over my past 35 years, many of the other commissions and meetings are now held at other than 7 o'clock at night. They are now being held for the convenience of the commission or committee members. Most people who work normally cannot ever attend these meetings that have normal working hours, 8 to 5. So it was my understanding that government meetings, any government meetings, were to be put together for the convenience of the public, not for the convenience of the various commissions and committees. So I think we need a little better understanding of this. I recall that I attended almost every Leelanau County Planning Commission meeting. We don't have a planning, we have no plan left over. We have no ordinance, we have nothing, but we have a planning commission. And I would, until about 3-4 years ago, I'd automatically receive for over the years a copy of the meeting schedule or the notice. All of a sudden that stopped. I concluded that that was a convenient thing to do because my comments probably were not liked there. So that's a clever way to eliminate someone. And I didn't make a big issue of it, but I recognized what was happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Gary Hosky, and I'm from Northport. And I just want to make it clear that there was no intent, I don't speak for them, but there was no intent to interrupt or be disruptive. I guess they didn't know your rules, and I think they're all pretty much rule followers, and we want to know the rules. But if you see their side of the thing that it said here, Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force grant application, they didn't know. So our bad, and I'd like to learn how we can work together to make sure we do it the way the rules suggest. So this is not the right forum for it, but at some point we'll work together to get that straight. And then the other thing, I just want to set the record straight a little bit because I've been studying this pretty closely. And you mentioned that there's no OMA violations. That's yet to be determined. The Michigan State Police are still investigating. I'm in touch with them because I was involved. Joe Hubble will represent the people in determining whether or not, in fact, it was a public body because he represents us. The other thing I would say is, do the commissioners who were on the task force, do they recall Chairman Wessel saying in August, before it was formed, that yes, meetings should be posted and minutes should be taken? Because that was in the minutes of your meeting. And yet nothing was done except for the first month. The first month meetings, either notices and or minutes were sent. And that was in October. And then in November, December, January, February, and March, there were no public notices. There were no minutes shared. To my knowledge, to the public. Okay, I don't know. So it didn't start until the complaint was filed in March. And there's still a couple that are missing. So we still don't have access to them. So let's work together and get things out in the open. Thank you.
Can I say that I kind of like providing those?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a graduate.
Oh, Hilltoppers.
Did you pay him?
Huh?
Did you pay him?
It's his shirt.
We paid-
It's his shirt. I don't even own one of those shirts anymore. So it's worn out. I wore it out.
Don't make me call the administrator to order.
Well. Oh, that'd be fun.
Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Hunter.
John Hunter, Bingham Township, District 2. Well, with the exception of the Health Department, Beta, Airport Authority, and other local important committees around this area, as commissioners, you have absolutely no legislative influence outside this county. You certainly have no power or authority to launch any type of investigation anywhere in this county or this state. Those are matters best brought to our local county sheriff, or better yet, the Michigan State Police and the FBI, who have significantly far more resources and professional experience to investigate all of this alleged criminal activity that's brought before the board. And there's probably no gain in repeating my request of last Tuesday about you publicly stating about your complete lack of power to alter the state of Michigan rules regarding voting in this county or this state. And realistically, I'm convinced that at least one of you would never admit to being powerless, even under the threat of bad karma. But I try to be a compromising type of human being. And so in the spirit of compromise, and this is not a demand by any means, here's a different suggestion for your consideration. Whichever candidate rises to the top of your search for administrator, that they are not only well-versed in administration, but also well-versed in what your job description entails, and that the rules you work under, a full understanding of the responsibilities, the reach, and the limits, and the position of a Leelanau County Commissioner. And then possibly this administrator could be entrusted with the responsibility of keeping the commissioner meetings concentrated on actual action items pertaining to Leelanau County. By this, I mean the administrator could be like an umpire. When a topic is expressed by a public commenter that is outside the reach, purview, or the power of the office of a Leelanau County Commissioner, this administrator would throw a flag, so to speak. This is not meant to stifle free speech of anyone, just for the administrator to let the public commenter know that the office of a county commissioner has no influence over, no control over, no jurisdiction regarding their particular problem. And then eventually you may have more time to spend on what should have been your real reason for running for office to begin with. And that is to ensure that Leelanau County achieves progress while remaining a wonderful, beautiful, and magical county that it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And what I'm passing out there is what Mr. Hunter had in his public comment last week. And I just wanted to respond to a few of the things he mentioned. And he mentioned right off the bat that this isn't Antrim County or Oakland County or Maricopa County or Arizona or Colorado or Georgia. So we shouldn't be concerned about what's happening there. But think of the prescriptions. Some of you might not be old enough to know when it happened. I don't know exactly when it happened. It was a long time ago when they found poison in the medicine bottles and they had to recall them all over the country. Well, anything that happens in Maricopa could happen here. Anything that happens there with machines, black box machines, which we can't see inside of, affects the national election. So we've got to get rid of all these machines. I would challenge John Hunter and Keith here and anyone else on the other side that see no problem with these. What exactly goes on inside of those black boxes? Who can tell me? I would challenge the clerks on that. They do their test. Who sets up the test? Dominion. The vice president of Dominion was Eric Coomer. He's been caught lying numerous times, and he said Trump's not going to win. I made sure of that. And the Dominion machines in Georgia were hacked. I don't have my pen here, but that's all they need. So that affects us. They're untrustworthy, those machines. And the beauty of the ballots, we get Mr. Hunter and Keith on the other side of the table, me and some other Republican, and we'll count the votes in our precinct. He goes on to say, you can't change the 9-day early voting. Do we want to? You know how costly that was? Talk about saving money. Make it more convenient for people. It's making it more open for fraud. Absentee voting, you can't change that. Democrats say that mail-in voting, 50% of them say mail-in voting makes it easier to cheat. What are we doing with that? That's from the different polls. You have to go by, you can't change anything. You have to go by what the state says. Well, the Secretary of State broke the law 6 times. Are we following her? And how do we trust any elections that she was over if she broke the law to get there? And let's see, he said, none of you tell them that none of you have any authority to change how this county runs elections. That's sort of like, I don't know, to me, I think of what something Hitler might say. You have no authority here. Just back off and do what we say. You know, he didn't word it that way. He didn't talk that way, but that's what I think. And there's no reason that we don't go back to secure paper ballots. And challenged us to get out on the soapbox out in front. Maybe that's better effective. Yes, I've already doing that for like a month and a half or 2 months, and I'll continue to do it instead of just sitting in here and let everybody coming in and know that we should be concerned and we should stand up. Like those people at the corner at the memorial stood up and fought for our country. And you're not concerned about what these people say. Here's a poll, Rasmussen, April 21st, 2023. Democrats, 50%. These are all Democrats, up to 50% say things are going bad. I'm running out of time, so I've already gone over that one. 50% say the state and election officials are ignoring widespread election evidence of election fraud. 2023, May 3rd, Rasmussen said overall 62% say that cheating affected the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. Do we ignore that? Who do we come to? You're our local representatives. Another poll, December 12th, 2023, shocking, 20%. See, voters who voted by mail-in ballots admitted to committing fraud in the 2020 election, up to 20% of the votes, according to that poll. And then 2024, February 23rd, say 50, let's see, it would be 63% of all people say that voting, cheating will affect. Anyway, I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Good evening, guys. I'm going to make this really short because we were hoping the meeting would be over at 8:30. we had some bets, but I'd like to thank the people who are working for our county, and that is all of you. But I'd also like to thank the Energy Task Force, because I do believe alternative energy is an important part of our future. And one of the things that I discovered last week while I was watching a Netflix show about FBI Director Comey is that in the 2016 election, the FBI did a deep dive into the Russian interference in the election. So they didn't do anything with the black boxes. They did something actually much cleverer. They went on Facebook, and their whole goal was to make sure Republicans and Democrats hate each other. I don't think we should let the Russians win. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Renee. Ms. Weiler.
Lee Weiler, Lake Leelanau. I'm running for Register of Deeds because I'm concerned about all deeds. This is Riley Keough. She is the granddaughter of Presley, Elvis Presley. And Graceland is being foreclosed upon by a creditor that apparently doesn't even exist. So we are at war with people who are getting all of our records, getting their hands on all of our records, our voter records, our deed records. And we should be concerned. I really object to all of us being considered in this conspiracy category. That's not fair. We're all very interested in making sure that our government is run very efficiently and that our public servants are public servants that are good stewards. And I tried to get on to the Land Bank Committee. I was told I couldn't get on by the commissioner who runs that committee. And now I'm finding out a lawyer is now on the committee. So are we lawyering up now? How many committees are there? How many commissions are there? How many 501c3 entities are we dealing with? That's all we want to know. We want to know because we want to be involved. I mean, forgive us because we want to be involved in our government and we have a right to do that. So what I'd like to do is take inventory of all of the committees. And we want to be involved. We don't want to be excluded anymore, and we won't be excluded anymore. And this is my letter and FOIA.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir. No, I'm sorry.
Last time I did this, there was somebody behind me. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Wake up. From Culverstead, Leland Township. I found it real intriguing earlier when it was discussed about how secure the county is. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Speak up a little more. How secure the county is from the administrator here. Kind of reminds me of prior, CISA director, Chris Krebs, in his comment in 2021 around regarding the 2020 election, how secure, the safest, most secure. I kind of fast forward that because some of you or most of you, some of you who bothered to stay and actually saw the presentation that went on about 3 months ago, you saw Jan Easterling, who's the current director, passionately state that we are now at a red alert condition in the country. They're not playing games with it. She stated that emphatically and called upon local governments to try to get on board and basically tech up. We could play it again for those who missed it, but those of you that were here might recall that. Technology is wonderful. But the comment about how secure this county is, I'm really concerned how naive most of the board is, or all the board, regarding security. One thing I'd like to know is, who did we base that on? Because that was not mentioned. Was it our security IT management team, Safety Net? Or was it one of our NGOs that we, oh no, I did mention, did you hear something about our county IT kind of giving the okay or giving the approval, or that it's stamped that it's secure? We've got things secure here. Or is it an NGO that we've contracted with that we really can't FOIA, but who's providing the hardware to actually monitor and get into legally, that we've contracted with Albert Sensors to actually monitor the in and out through our county servers? Or is it, that's also those NGOs, which happens to be the Center of Internet Security, also has a very strong working relationship with who, as that director said, is involved with monitoring, boasting how it's monitored, the in and out of it. So I don't know who you've got the golden stamp of approval of how secure our country is, because I'd like to know. I really would like to know what they base that on. Seriously. I don't know how well you guys are attuned to that. Some of us are more attuned than others. I've researched this for years now. I'm no expert at it. Don't claim to be. But I've got enough facts that lead to the truths that have been discovered, and the ones that are willing to look at it and don't shy away from it, whether it's naiveness, ignorance, willful ignorance, or whatever. It's out there, and it's been out there. So it's something you should take seriously. When we have some glitch goes on here, when there was a comment made that we don't have any problems with the county servers, or we don't have any problems with the county computers, I could go back and find at least two in the last 12 years, 12, 15 years that we've had breaches into our system. And there could be a heck of a lot more that I'm not aware of. It's not uncommon. And when you have the top dogs in the country saying, watch your back, and you're ignoring it, or you're taking somebody's word for it, when those people are actually working hand in hand all the way down. Most people don't know what I just said. If you really, really want to learn more, I can give you the details if your mind's open to it. It's got to be open to it and not passing the buck. We do have a problem here. Everybody, I don't care what party you're in, what your faith is, whatever. If you want to have something that is secure, teching up to defend against it isn't the best way to do it. The less tech that's used, is the safest.
I would suggest that you call Mr. Lewis and sit down with him and
It was safety net.
Pardon me?
Safety net.
Isn't that what I said? Safety net?
That's who the memo is referred to in the packet.
That's our security provider management for servers, right. And I know they walk hand in hand and have all the knowledge.
I'm not saying that everything is perfect. I'm saying for this particular instance, no breach. I'm referring to, period.
Okay, well, it didn't come across that way.
Well,
thank you. Okay, I'm not, I didn't initiate the back and forth. I'm just trying to be helpful.
Well, I'm trying to clarify for you.
And we really don't like to do that, but we would welcome you to call anytime and sit down and get questions answered. And if we have a complaint, you can give it to us, but we also urge you also to go through the channels, as I told Ms. Weiler, just so they don't get lost. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Another Northport.
Yes, sir. Love it. Keith Badoon, Leelanau Township. Again, I was confused about the agenda because that when it said that Energy Task Force, we've been dealing with the solar panels, which was Energy Task Force. My concern is, did you guys search for somebody to administer this, or you just gave it to this one person because there might be some more qualified people out in this county available to run this. But that's all I say about that, is I think you should look at that. But also all these grants, I'm hearing all these grants coming out. What I'd like to see is somebody write a grant for the taxpayers in this county to lower their tax bases and then pay everybody $45 an hour. Then we could support our local businesses. So the other thing I want to say is that the White House just announced they're releasing gas reserves so that people can get out and drive their gas cars this summer. So I don't know if that's buying a vote or what that is, but it was just on the news that they're releasing gas reserves for us. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Gruden. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
David Kiesel, Sutton's Bay Township. I got a bill this week. I couldn't figure out what it was, $192. It was from the Heart Center, Traverse City. You know my story, I got a pacemaker. I died 3 times 2 years ago. Got to the hospital, got a pacemaker. Okay, I said, what's going on here? I called and they said, well, we had to download everything for the last year to keep you from coming to the hospital. I said, how did you do that? He said, well, that little spaceship you got in your dresser in your bedroom, every time you go through the door, it downloads everything your heart did for 24 hours. Because we went over all that. You don't have to come in. All we do is charge you $192 and we scan it all remotely. Okay, I'm not hooked to the internet. How does that happen? Have we got any answers? Just like the voting machines, Dominion. How does that happen? I got a question.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you. Any commissioner comment? Commissioner Algar?
So I will start with an apology. He did an innovative thing with the task force. We haven't had very many task forces. We promised we would not spend any county money. So we were told we needed to take minutes, and we did, and there have been minutes for every meeting. There were a couple, there were a couple missing. I don't know why we submitted them when we realized that, but it was a new form and we didn't have a protocol. When people brought it up, we made sure. Now I think it's more organized. So we're also learning about task forces. But we were told, I was deputized to take minutes, and we took minutes every meeting. We meet the first Thursday of every month. That's now announced more, I think, on the website, or you know what? The administrator at the time sets things up for us. And we just went to our meetings and took our minutes and did the best work we could. So if it was not pro forma, it's because there was no forma, but we're doing our best to serve the public as well as we could. So I will apologize for the startup that perhaps didn't meet expectations, but there was not a real form to adhere to it in the beginning. Our goal is to not spend money, get some of our tax dollar back in the county, and do what we can to deal with the energy transition to greener and cleaner energy for this county. As far as the public comment rule, I fought restricting that for years. but we have work to do. Our job is to do the work of the county. And we got to the point where that was being seriously interfered with. So this rule makes sure we get the work done. We appreciate your staying to speak. I used to do the same thing. I would speak at the end of the meeting. I appreciate your interest in what we're doing, and we appreciate your comments. But our first priority and our first job is to do the work of the county and get it done. And so this rule works well.
Mr. Kramer?
I just want to be the one young whippersnapper in the room who checks with ChatGPT or AI, artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence actually does very well with legal queries. So ChatGPT asked the question about the potential conflict of interest. I'll throw down a buck maybe to see if this ends up being accurate, but I just wanted to give you the information. In general, the person writing a grant proposal can include a provision for their own salary or compensation as a part of the project's budget, especially if they will be actively involved in managing or executing the project. This is common in many grants, including government and foundation grants. However, transparency and clear justification for the role and its compensation are crucial to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest. Specific policies can vary depending on the funding agency and the legal framework for the jurisdiction. For a solar project in Leelanau County, it would be wise to 1, review the specific grant guidelines. Each grant might have its own set of rules regarding project management and personal costs. 2, consult with legal or compliance experts. If there's any uncertainty, consulting with someone familiar with local government contracts or grant regulations can help ensure that all legal and ethical guidelines are followed. 3, disclose all potential conflicts of interest. If the grant writer has any financial or personal interest in the project, these should be disclosed to the grantor, which is understood that it has been, to avoid any potential issues or misunderstanding. It might be helpful to reach out to the grant providing agency directly for guidance on their policies regarding personnel or conflict of interest. So go ahead and check with legal, but I'd like to see if they affirm what I just found.
Any other commissioner comment? Commissioner Work.
Just want to remind everybody that Memorial Day service is 10 o'clock. And it's really a very nice, solemn service. And if all our people here have any veterans, they don't have to be from this county. You can have your name put on, or his or her name put on the wall, and take it into Mr. Lewis's office. I think I forget what it is, 25, does that sound right? $25 or something? The cost, they bring in their discharge papers. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of Leelanau County names on that wall down there. My sheriff, Fred Greer, and Ed Eckerly, and some of the deputies that I have worked with. So it's just a nice service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? I will not be here on Memorial Day because Northport has Memorial Day services that are second to none. And Cameron and I will be there because Cameron's playing, and so we will think about all veterans and all people that have lost their lives in fighting for this country.
And I will be in Glen Arbor because they will have a ceremony at their Civil War cemetery.
For my commissioner comment, I wanted to say it wasn't my finest hour, and I apologize. It was more fun when I could sit where Rex Road is and let Will Bunny do the business. But I do apologize, and I will try harder.
I'll continue to have more fun than you at every meeting.
And I'm having a ball over here. Because I've sat in this chair.
Yeah.
Jeffy. Okay, while she's coming up, I forgot to mention one thing earlier and I didn't put in my notes. Last week was the National Police Memorial Week, and there's a special day. I've also asked to make sure that gets put on the calendar for next year, so folks will remember that. But I want to do a shout out to your sheriff's department and all those first, including all the first responders that work here in Leelanau County. Hopefully, well, pretty sure to do their best to make your home, your neighborhood, and your lives safe. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I was asked to point that out by the chair and I did forget to mention that. Thank you.
She never does what I ask her to do. Kathy, we have approval of financials.
Yes.
Anything there?
We have 2 amendments, if anyone has any questions about them. I would move to approve fiscal year 2024 amendment number 24-006 and 24-007.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Move to approve claims and accounts. $361,104.41.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
And I move to approve post audit $2,163,130.29.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. We are adjourned.
Yeah.
Motion.
Yeah.
You know, you live close enough to my house.
Yeah, so were you?
Yeah. Bill Topper. I love that place. My best friend.
Yeah, maybe after like settles down a little bit.
You should go back.
Nice outfit.
No hiding.
Call you. Allison's been off and I don't know if there's anything to sign.
I'm going to be here for health board meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, I know she has a damn meeting at 10, so pop in, but I don't know if there's anything yet that we have. Okay, the agreement there, okay. Okay.
So I'll
And
stop.
yeah, that's fine, I'll tell Michelle, okay.